Hey guys, this is Wolf Hoffmann from Accept. I'm coming to you from outer space, and you're on Sonic Perspective.
Rich or poor, large or small, the Undertaker takes them all. Undertaker, bring out your dead. The Undertaker.
Hey, Wolf, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure.
You got it. It's nice up here on my space station.
Awesome. I'm Robert Cavuto, and today on Sonic Perspectives, we're speaking with Wolf Hoffmann of Accept for the band's upcoming U.S. tour, Too Mean to Die. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. I appreciate it.
You got it. It's my pleasure. Yeah, man, we've got a great tour coming up, so I'm super excited.
Oh, yeah, I am too. We've spoken before in the past. I know you do a lot of photography. I'm a guitar player and a photographer like yourself. So
Yeah, what kind of stuff do you do?
I do mostly concerts.
Concerts, excellent. Yeah, I mean, I went in my time. I'm no longer a photographer, I have to say. I can't really
Oh,
claim. I mean, I still have a camera, and I guess I can still take pictures, and what sometimes I do, but I'm really no longer professionally taking pictures. I did that in the time when Accept was in hiatus, and I did it for a few years, overlapping when Accept got back into the business, but now I haven't done it in some time.
yeah, you were doing a lot of corporate photography, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, basically, I was a bit of a photo whore. I did everything that paid well, to be
Yeah.
honest, because I liked photography, but I I have to say my heart was always more into music, you know. So when the chance came to be back on stage, I jumped full force right back into it
Awesome.
and never looked back. But photography, yeah, I mean, photography is strange because everybody sort of starts taking pictures, scenic pictures of rocks and trees, and it's all artsy until they discover, well, damn, there's really no money in any of this. But why don't I do some photography that's also fun, but that actually pays the bills? And that's how I gravitated into advertising and corporate stuff. And it's not as sexy, but hey, man, if you got bills to pay, it's a great way to do it. It's fun and it's artsy and it's still better than shoveling rocks.
No, that's true. Yeah, I did. I love taking pictures, mostly concert pictures.
Yeah,
Like you said, there's no money in that. It's more for personal enjoyment, love the
sure.
band. Yeah,
And that's sometimes, quite honestly, that's the best way to do things, whether it's music or photography or any kind of art. Because once when money comes into it and you have to make a living at it, you have to make all these compromises because hey, we all have to live somehow. And
sure.
before you know it, it's no longer just for fun. It's no longer the artsy side of things. It's whether it's music, same thing.
Okay.
Sometimes some musicians they play on weddings and things, and it's a great way to make a living too. But it's no longer. Maybe it's not what you started out wanting to do, but
Sure.
hey,
Sure. No, that's great. Well, I'm really excited. Accept is going to go back on touring in the U.S. I'm located in New Jersey. You got a bunch of shows coming up here,
yep, we
New
do.
York, New Jersey area. So hopefully to catch one of those in October. I think it was like
Yeah,
right around my birthday.
this is where our boy Mark Tornillo is from. So he's got a good, strong following in those parts of the
Yeah.
country. So that's going to be like those are going to be home shows for him.
So what was the decision to go back on tour? Was it post-COVID? Were you just ready? And is this kind of a furtherment of the Too Mean to Tour tour? Excuse me, Too Mean to Die tour that you've toured for in the past?
It is, and it's been on the calendar for some time that we said, okay, we've done select shows here and there in the US, but man, why don't we do a full-blown US tour like we used to do, where we travel from coast to coast on a tour bus, and wouldn't that be great? So we kind of forced our booker to put something together because we really wanted to do this again. And I think the audience is also ready because we haven't been in. I mean, we always get these requests from fans that say, yeah, I know you play LA and I know you play New York area sometimes, New Jersey, but you never come down to Texas or you never do come Pittsburgh or
Yeah.
wherever. So we really wanted to do this again, like in the good old days where you go to all these places, all across the country. And it takes a month or so to do it. And it's great. We're looking forward to it.
I think you're like so popular, more popular maybe overseas than you here are here in the United States. Would you agree?
Yeah, probably. I mean, we've just done more groundwork there over the years. We've just done more appearances. I mean, there's and the metal scene in Europe has really caught up to the US and maybe overtaken it
I agree.
in a certain way. You know, in the 80s or so, the good old glory 80s, it was all about America, and America was all about metal, and it was a huge market. But then slowly but surely, Europe started being more and more important. And nowadays, you find a lot of American bands going to Europe to play shows,
Yeah.
tour, and some festivals and whatnot. So it's a bit of a seesaw going back and forth. Right now, I see there's more festivals in the US coming up, luckily, finally. But definitely, our strongest market has been where we're from, which is
Yeah.
Europe, Germany, you know.
I always see videos of you on YouTube playing big festivals,
Yeah,
tens and tens of thousands of people. And,
it's
you
true.
know, you can't get that here in the United States. It wouldn't happen.
Not yet.
Not yet. Hopefully it does, right? Now,
Absolutely.
some of these songs that you're performing at 30, 40 years old, and they still stand up to the test of time. What's your take on that?
That's great, isn't it? That's really
Yeah.
the ultimate test. You know, that often goes through my mind when we release an album and we select a few songs to play live, and I'm thinking to myself, which one of these songs will we possibly play 10 years from now? Because that is really the test of a good album. Does it stand the test of time, and is it still going to be relevant a few years down the road or not? Or is it just sort of something that's exciting and fresh because it's new now, but over time you discover, well, actually, these other songs are maybe better or stronger or something
Mhm.
or whatever, you know. So luckily we've had on these last five albums, which I call the new era with Mark, we've had some really strong songs that we probably will keep playing forever, you know.
Yeah.
And I think this new album has some definite contenders of like long term lifers, you know.
Yeah. No, there's some great stuff on there. It's one of my favorite of your most recent ones. So I really love the album, and I've been listening to it since it came out. What did it come out? 2021 or 2020? 2021, right?
21 in the spring of 21. Yeah.
Right. Yep.
And
Now,
I got to tell you, we've played five or six of these songs live now, and they're all going down really, really well for the European audience. And I'm sure we will play all these songs for on that US tour.
and I think, except as one of those rare bands that could go out and play really more obscure tracks too, and the
Yeah,
fans eat it up and love it. I think they kind of want that from you. Do you look at your catalog and say, can we throw in a deep cut here and there?
we do, but at the same time, I'm quite mindful because I usually put the set list, excuse me, together, and I'm usually quite mindful of thinking like, what does the majority of the fans want to hear? Because sometimes you meet these fans that say, "Man, I want you to play that one song I've been listening to all my life." And sometimes during rehearsals, we go, "Okay, we're gonna try this," and it might mean a lot to that one fan or maybe a, a lot of fans, but is the majority of the audience really going to be happy when we play that, or are they just going to sit there and go like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
okay," you know? So I'm mindful of what most people probably would enjoy the most because I think we're playing for the audience, and I would never pick songs just because I want to play them or we really love it, but the audience prefers something else.
Yeah.
I think we owe it to the audience to serve them. You know what I mean?
That's a great response.
So whatever, I mean, they're the boss. Whatever they want to hear, we'll play it. You
Yeah.
know.
Over the years, playing these songs live, have you found easier or better ways to make them sound when you're playing them live from then when you recorded them in the studio?
Yeah, definitely. You find and sometimes I got to tell you, sometimes you discover during rehearsals or on stage after you've played it a dozen or a few dozen times, you think like, God, why didn't we do it? Why didn't we record it just like that?
Yeah.
Sometimes you change the riff around a little bit or you solo just because it flows easier and it makes more sense in a certain way from a like player's point of view.
Right.
And then you say, well, this is as good, maybe even better than how we recorded it. But in the recording process, you're I don't know, you're in a different mind frame. You just want to get it on tape. You want to you don't think about the live show quite so much. I mean, I'm trying to never record stuff that's impossible to play, but even sometimes that happens. You know, you sit
Yeah.
there all concentrated, and you get this one lick, and you can just about play it, and it sounds killer, so you leave it, and later on you think like, God damn, that's pretty tough. How do I do that on stage? You know.
You know, and you guys incorporated a third guitar player like Iron
We did.
Maiden and like Alice Cooper. How is that going?
Oh, I didn't know Alice Cooper does that too, but
Yeah, you
yeah,
just got
it's going fantastic. Yeah, it all happened because Phil Shouse was a stand-in for on the last tour we did with orchestra in 2019.
Mhm.
I think it was before COVID. Yeah, I think it was the last tour we did before COVID. And we found out what a fantastic player he is and what a nice guy he is. And we really didn't want him to leave after the tour was over. And Uwe came back, and now we have two guitar players. I mean, three guitar players. And
Does he help? How does it work? You know, tell me about the diversity of the three guitar players, the different styles. How does it make things work without getting too muddy?
yeah, that was my worry when we made the decision. I thought, like, I hope it doesn't get muddy because I think what it really requires is you just need to take your time and go through the songs and pick out parts that everybody can play that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we now use different voicings on these chords and the riffs, how we play them. So one guy plays up, one guy plays low, and sometimes it's different inversions of the same chord. And it really adds another dimension to it when you do that. Another thing we can do now is, well, first of all, we can trade solos
Right.
and twin solos and still have a rhythm guitar player in the background. And another thing we can do is we can play overdub parts from the album, which we had to sort of leave away normally. You know, like a song for instance, Princess of the Dawn. It's got these, you know, that rhythm guitar riff from two guitar players, but there's also a bunch of overdubs on the album, which Phil can play now, and it really adds a certain dimension. It's really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can't wait to hear it. You know, I've
Yeah.
seen you guys play with two guitar players, never three, so I'm kind of curious to check that out. Do you think Restless and Wild defines the band's sound now with three guitar players?
Restless and Wild. I mean, I like the title. I mean, I always like to think we are restless and wild still to this day. So that alone is a yes.
Yeah.
Sure. And Restless and Wild was kind of a defining album for us, you know, because we really found our style with that album, I think.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
There's a bunch of songs we still, like I said earlier, The Test of Time, there's a bunch of songs we still play to this day from that album.
Yeah.
So if that's not proof that it was a good album, then I don't know what is.
That was my introduction to you back when I was in college. That was the first thing I heard, Fast as a Shark, and, you know, gravitated from there, and then went backwards to your older catalog, and then moved forward with Balls to the Wall and things. So
sorry for that. Sorry for messing up your life.
No, I love it. You guys came in, or at least in my opinion, what I was listening to at the time, you came in with the British new wave of music, though you were in.
Yeah.
Even though you were a German band, would you kind of agree that you kind of piggybacked on that?
Yeah, in a weird way, you could say we were the German cousin of that whole movement, you know, or the German, I don't know what, the German part of the new wave of British heavy metal, you know. Definitely it wasn't British, but
no.
It was during that time, and it was Germany's contribution.
Yeah,
and I think
awesome.
Looking back at it, I would say we were probably the first real metal band from Germany. I mean, we kind of followed in the footsteps of the Scorpions, but they were like already gone by the time all this happened. They were already playing, you know, their radio rock, whatever you call it, and weren't really part of that scene, I would say.
Do you guys think, and I believe this wholeheartedly, that you were one of the first bands to introduce heavy double bass drumming?
It's true.
And I think that carried over to a lot of younger bands like the Metallicas from there. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, that statement has been made many times, and I would have to agree. Yeah, I mean, some of these guys even told me after the fact, years later, like that. Yeah, that's true. They heard that song, and it was kind of a wake up call, or whatever, it was a heavy influence on a lot of these thrash and speed metal,
Yeah.
and sometimes super successful acts right now. It's great. It makes me feel very proud.
You
You know,
should. You
I wish
should.
they would send me a check. That would be nice.
That
No,
would be
just
awesome
kidding.
too. Yeah.
No, I don't want to. No. I'm totally happy with how I am. I'm just kidding, man.
And
But
to
don't send me any money, please. If you hear that out there, please don't. I have so much I can't hardly handle it. Please.
it's hard to get the Venmo in space, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know where to store it all. I've got these trash bags full of cash sitting right here that I don't know how to spend up here in space.
That's awesome. When you put out Too Mean to Die, the guitar playing and the guitar tone was like a buzzsaw to the head. It was incredible. What a great sonic album and tremendous guitar tones.
Thank
Was
you.
that a conscious effort to say, listen, we got to really keep up our game and make sure this album is better than anything we've done before sonically?
Well, of course, you always want to sound cool. And I got to give Andy Sneap a lot of credit to it.
Yeah.
I really haven't changed my guitar tone for this album from the previous one or the one before, because I'm very consistent with that. I kind of use what I have, it works for me. But sometimes it's just those little tweaks and the way that you make it sound in the sonic picture of the whole band, and that's where Andy is a master. So I got to give him the credit for that, because it's all how you situate and how does the rest of the band sound. Sound is can trick you if you isolate an instrument by itself. Sometimes it might not, or it might sound different from it. It's the whole package has a sound to it, and the songs, by the way, have a sound too. A lot of times people ask me, man, that riff for Balls to the Wall, it sounds incredible. How did you get that guitar tone? And really, the guitar tone is not that different from anything else that I've done over the years. Or that it's just the riff itself has a very cool sound. Because it's got these open strings, and the way it's been played, that sounds good in just about any sound. So it's a mix of components that make up the sound of an album or a song.
Well, hopefully Andy doesn't steal your sound and your tone for the next Judas Priest album, right? You'll know right away.
Yeah, I'll sue him right away if that happens. Get my lawyers.
What is the magic combination? Is it one of your flying V's and a Marshall? What's the magic combination?
Nowadays it is. I play a Framus flying V, which is made in Germany. It's my own signature model, if I may say. And that's been beautiful. That's been on the last 5 albums. But in the olden days, it was mostly a Strat.
Really?
Yeah, people always think I played the Flying V in the studio,
Right.
but that was more of a stage guitar for me.
Mm-hmm.
In the studio, I kind of preferred the Strat.
Very cool. It's good to know. You wrote that last album without Peter, your longtime partner. Was it a bit of a challenge?
Less than I thought it would be. I was a little afraid, a little worried that it might be lonely or weird to record without him or to write songs without him. But it worked out okay. And luckily, some of the new guys came in, and like Martin Motnik really contributed quite a bit. That was great. So it worked out all right, I would say. New songs, I feel quite happy with the new songs and stuff. So, yeah, Peter is my long-term buddy, and we became really close friends over the years, and I miss him for that reason. But songwriting-wise, it worked out okay, luckily.
Oh, it sounds great. My favorite track, I think, was The Undertaker. And the video is pretty awesome. It's got that DC Comics Joker theme going. Tell me a little about the history and the decision to go in that route for your video.
Well, the song itself tells a story of an Undertaker, and when we worked on the song, I always had this picture of like a Western movie Undertaker guy in mind. So we could have gone that route, but Undertaker, it's always a little creepy in itself, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this production company based in Poland had the idea of the dancing with a dead girl and all that creepy stuff, and I loved it immediately when they sent the idea, and so that it was shot there, and yeah, it's cool. And I like the song because it does tell a story. That's it's actually an ideal scenario when you're here, or when you read the lyrics, you have this visual thing going on in your head, you know, and that song certainly does that. It works well. That's why we chose it as a video.
No, that's a great song too. Are you playing that one live?
We are, not always, but we are. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
That's a great one to hear. Let me see. When one of my favorite songs was "Fast as a Shark," and you have that German folk song in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
How did that? It used to drive my mother crazy. What was the rationale for putting that German folk song in front of one of the heaviest heavy metal songs ever?
Yeah, I remember that we were sitting in a pub or bar in Germany, and I presented the idea to the guys because I'd heard something similar where somebody scratched a record and just ripped the needle off the record and played something else instead. And I thought, now we have this song "Fast as a Shark," which is pretty extreme. Why don't we try to put a fake intro in front of it with something on the complete opposite spectrum of musicality? And at first I thought it could be a classical, like an opera lady, oh, you know, something like that. But I like the idea, or I presented the idea, like we trick the listener. They put the album on, they think they bought the wrong record.
Yes.
Basically, you know. So that was the effect that we were going after. So we were looking for something. Everybody liked the idea, and we thought, okay, we're going to try it. And so we were in the studio recording at Dieter Dirks' recording studio, and we were looking for that song to put in front of it. And we asked the lady, or the Dirks' mother. She was sort of the studio mama. She would serve sandwiches and run the kitchen. And we asked her, do you have any record collection, anything that we could look through? And she said, oh yeah, I've got these, you know. And there's a little album that Dieter as a child sang on. It's got these German folk songs, and we're listening through it. And when we stumbled upon this little thing, this little element where it's not German lyrics, because it's a German folk song. It's ein Heller und ein Batzen, da da da, this and that. But we didn't really want it to be German, because we wanted to be an international band, and we didn't really want to bother people with German lyrics and stuff. So we picked that little la la la, you know, Heidi Heido thing section. And, that's what we used. But it's actually Dieter Dirks as a child singing that he was part of the choir that performed, I guess.
That's awesome. What a great story. I had no idea. That is an awesome story. And I want to be respectful to your time. So my last question, after this tour, are you going to be going back into the studio to write a new album, or is that
well, the studio is basically my house, or the band house in Nashville. But yeah, I will go there and definitely start working seriously on songs. We're not quite ready to record because, quite honestly, we don't have finished songs yet. I've got a collection of stuff that I've started to put together, but it's, at the very beginning stages. But we definitely, we want to put out a new album as soon as we can. Sure.
Yeah, you guys are always great about that.
I also been dragging my feet quite a bit because it's been such a weird time with Corona. You would think I have had all this free time, so I have dozens and dozens of songs ready to go, but the truth is I don't, because I was sitting here basically like you sit at the airport when they, you get there, you wait for your flight, and 10 minutes before it's ready to take off, they tell you, oh, there's an hour delay. And you think like, okay, an hour, that's not so bad. There's not much time to do much anyhow. So let me just sit here and wait.
Yeah.
And when that hour is over, they tell you, oh, by the way, it's going to be another 2 hours. Had you known all this up front, you would have probably done something useful, but it was almost like hurry up and wait. And that's how it felt to me with Corona. And I thought, well, yeah, in a couple of months, the tour's going to go on anyhow. So, I'm not quite ready to work on new songs quite yet. So, but had I known there's going to be a long 2-year break, I might have gotten my act together and jumped into it.
I think a lot of people were like you. It was the same thinking. Nobody was expecting it to go as long as it did, and
and we had just done an album during Corona, so we were anxious to tour with it and not start working on new songs already, because I felt like, hey, I've just made a record.
Right.
Give me a break, people. I need some. I want to tour this album first. I don't really want to work on another album.
No, that makes sense because you never really got to tour properly, so it's great that you're coming back around for that.
Yeah, and I also I don't know that the world is ready for yet another album. I mean,
Yeah,
come
it
on.
makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
sense. And I think the fans really appreciate that you continue to put out new music versus rest as a nostalgia act because people need
Yeah,
music and it makes them happy and we really enjoy it. So please
and
continue.
it makes us happy too. It makes it more relevant. I mean, that's one of the things we decided early on when we met Mark and we said, okay, we're gonna put the band back together and we're gonna start it new with a new lineup and we're gonna do all this, but we're gonna do it properly. We're gonna, by God, we're gonna record proper songs and we're gonna make proper albums. We're not just gonna sit on our laurels and play Restless and Wild and nothing else. We definitely want to do new relevant stuff because we knew it's hard, but it's important to do.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time, and you were so insightful, and I always enjoy speaking with you. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It's been
And I will
fun.
see you. I'll see you in October when you come to the New York, New Jersey area. It's the end of October, I think you're coming.
That's
The
right.
23rd to the 25th.
When I come down to Earth, to you Earthlings.
Well, don't forget your flying V's up there because
Yeah, well, that's how I got up here. Hell, you gotta have a flying.
that could be on the next cover of your album, riding a flying V into space.
That's right, like a witch on a broom.
Well, Wolf, thank you so much for your time. It was awesome.
You got it.
Have a great
Thank you.
day.
You too. Take care. Bye.